Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, attending the event live in Düsseldorf or online around the globe. I'm very pleased to welcome you on behalf of the International ORP Foundation and the Global and Danish Vision Zero Business Councils to the second part of the International Vision Zero Days at the A+A Congress with the title Vision Zero and the Great Reset for Europe. I would like to express a special welcome to our 4 amazing session chairs and to the 25 distinguished speakers from 12 countries that will be joining us this afternoon and tomorrow morning. Thank you all for your fantastic support. Ladies and gentlemen, the A+A Congress takes place at a very special moment. While the current pandemic still is causing disruption and pain, it also offers us an opportunity to reflect not only about where we were before the pandemic, but also what we would like to do differently and hopefully better in the future. In short, to rethink our economic, social, and health protection models. Even before the pandemic, the world was confronted with a number of major challenges as a result of globalization, climate change, and digitalization, but also due to increased migration, population aging, and a rise in chronic diseases. But while these all have a longer-term nature, the COVID-19 pandemic caused dramatic short-term health, social, and economic disruptions practically within weeks and all over the globe. Like a gigantic stress test, the pandemic revealed strengths and weaknesses in our protection systems, in our ability to respond and adjust as societies, economies, and individuals. The World Economic Forum has on this background launched a Great Reset initiative and has called upon world leaders to join a discourse about a new and better post-COVID future for people and planet. The question is now how the OSH community responds to this call. In the video we displayed up to this session, we give a clear response, namely that we are ready to contribute to a successful Great Reset. The reason for this bold statement is that our community believes in the unique potential of prevention to enable business culture where people come first. This afternoon and tomorrow morning, we will address 4 strategic challenges for prevention that in our view are critical to unlock this potential. How to change the traditional mindset about protecting and promoting health and sustainability. How to put digitalization in the service of prevention. How to introduce new incentives to promote safe and healthy prevention culture. And how to create new metrics for prevention and business value creation. The 4 challenges will each be introduced by the session chair and high-level representatives from international organizations and businesses, as well as senior OSH experts will present and discuss new innovative prevention concepts for a healthy and sustainable future. Following the successful International ORP conference about Vision Zero and the Great Reset in March, we organized the first regional discussions on the occasion of the ORP Congress in July, focusing on the Americas. And now we look forward to continuing our discourse with emphasis on European experiences, a region that is globally recognized for taking a leadership role as regards safety, health, and well-being at work. Ladies and gentlemen, this event would not be possible without the active collaboration and support of the German Federal Association for Safety and Health at Work, the BASI, and the Messe Düsseldorf. I'm therefore pleased to give the floor now to Dr. Christian Felten, Director of BASI, and to Mr. Erhard Wienkamp, Managing Director for Operative Trade Fair Business, for a word of welcome. Christian, you have the floor.
Yeah, hi, Hans-Horst. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor. And dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you very warmly to the second part of the Vision Zero Days at the 37th A+A Congress in Düsseldorf, which is, as always, is being held together with a truly unique trade fair featuring personal protection products. My name is Christian Felten, and I'm the Managing Director of this BASI, the Federal German Association for Occupational Safety and Health. And I'm especially pleased to welcome our many international participants here, both online and here on site in Düsseldorf, as well as our 23 distinguished speakers and presenters from all over the world. The fact that we've come together here is due in no small part to our excellent collaboration with the International Occupational Risk Prevention Foundation as we prepared for this event. This collaboration has truly enriched our Congress here in Düsseldorf, and I would like to say a big thank once again for this. Looking at the topics of the Vision Zero and the Great Reset for Europe, I personally believe that this reset and the momentum following this terrible pandemic should be used to put people front and center at all times, even without obvious threats, in line with People Matter, the motto of the entire A+A conference. The Vision Zero strategy aims to do just that. I'm very excited about the solutions and approaches that we will shortly be discussing in Düsseldorf. The pandemic has given us something, the opportunity to start afresh in terms of prevailing economic, social, and ecological models. And I'm convinced that we can create a new world of work where a primary goal is the safety, health, and well-being of all of us. The Vision Zero philosophy puts it in this way. All work-related accidents, illnesses, suffering can be prevented if the needs of people at work are given top priority in this approach. The ORP Foundation, Occupational Risk Prevention Foundation event addresses what companies need to do in order to achieve this goal. In keeping with the spirit of the A+A Congress here in Düsseldorf, it focuses on good practice examples and approaches to solutions from companies that have embraced the principle of the Vision Zero philosophy. That's why I'd like to express my sincere thanks today to the representatives from these companies who have agreed to share their experiences with us. In doing so, they are setting an example and making a tangible contribution to the development of a global culture of prevention with us. Of course, I would have preferred to welcome you all in person here in Düsseldorf. You can believe me, but we still need to use what have become tried and tested, always online tools to see each other. However, I'm very confident that we will be able to make up for this at the next A+A in October in 2 years. For BASI, the German Federal Association for Occupational Safety and Health, as the organizer of this Congress, the ORP Foundation's Vision Zero event is also an expression of new beginning. This is because we want to further develop occupational safety and health for a globalization that is compatible with people and the environment. And that must be a part of our commitment to the interests of people. With this in mind, the A+A Congress will become a hub of international cooperation even more than ever before in the coming years. And we will hardly work on it. I'm looking forward to all of you helping us to do this. And so now I'd like to pass the baton back to Hans Horst, because the third speaker here is unavailable. The manager Wienkamp, I cannot bring him to the phone now because I have no information. Could be something wrong with the access of the Zoom meeting here, but it could be that we will have him with us here in the next coming hours. But now he is unavailable. I must apologize. He is something here on the conference in Düsseldorf. Hans Horst, I give it back, the mic back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Christian. And as you know, these online events are magic, no? So with a magical tool, we have generated a pre-recorded statement by Mr. Wienkamp, because as you're quite right, he is so busy right now with this big event. And as we said, he is responsible for the fair, so he is very busy out there. But he has been so kind to provide us with a pre-recording. So magically, he will appear in a few seconds with Natalie's help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But would have been nice to have him live here with us.
Absolutely. Natalia, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear partners and friends of Messe Düsseldorf, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. The topic of healthy working conditions is particularly close to our hearts, and we have dedicated an entire trade fair to it. How much people matter and how important it is to protect them at the workplace is on display at the trade fair until October 29th at the International A+A Congress, and especially today in this Occupational Risk Prevention digital conference on Vision Zero at the Great Reset. This is the first B2B trade fair on our fairgrounds in 2021, and we are very pleased to again offer this important platform to all involved in the occupational health and safety industry. Considering the pandemic-related circumstances, we are very glad to welcome over 1,150 exhibitors from 56 countries. They present the latest trends and innovation in occupational health and safety. And after the first day of the trade fair, I can also report that once again many trade fair visitors are taking advantage of what A+A has to offer, thus sending a clear signal about the enormous need for the topic of health and safety at work. More than ever, the current pandemic has increased the awareness for safe and healthy behavior. That is why A+A is such an important platform to bring up these topics to support post-pandemic mindsets and define a roadmap for success in creating this vision of a world without occupational accidents and work-related diseases. Europe will play an important role and has to lead the way so that prevention work must be continually reoriented towards this goal. This broad and networked approach requires the participation of all levels of society. At this point, a big thank to you, the Occupational Risk Prevention Foundation, and Mr. Konkulewski, our trusted partner BASI, the German Federal Association for Occupation Safety and Health, especially Dr. Felten, who organized this conference within the framework of the 37th A+A Congress. But enough of the long speeches. You can now look forward to an exciting exchange and lively discussions with high-level representatives from the leading international occupational safety and health organizations, business leaders and experts from national institutions and politics, as well as business and practitioners. And please do not miss the opportunity to visit the A+A exhibition halls if you are able to. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very successful and informative Congress. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wienkamp. A virtual thanks for that. And indeed, we would have loved to be in Düsseldorf with you, Christian, and all the colleagues present there. But now we have heard your invitation for the next A+A. And I think we all are looking forward to that, because it's truly an exceptional venue, an exceptional event that nobody in our community should miss. Ladies and gentlemen, a truly exciting program lies ahead of us. But before we go to the first technical session, I have the honor and pleasure to introduce a distinguished panel of outstanding personalities from leading international organizations to set the stage for the coming days. Namely the International Social Security Association, the International Labour Organization, and the European Commission. Our first opening speaker is Professor Dr. Joachim Breuer, who is the president of the International Social Security Association, also known as the ISA. And as he is not available right now, he has pre-recorded his address. So Natalia, please, let's see Mr. Breuer's address now, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on one side, it's really a pleasure to speak during or for this session on Vision Zero at the Great Reset of Europe. But on the other side, I would have loved to meet you all in person today, but we all know why it is only possible to hear and see you through screens and microphones today, as we are used to it during the last month. Social security systems around the world have rapidly responded to mitigate the social and economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. While the phases of the pandemic have been really unpredictable, they were also different from region to region. The focus of the European states was, besides the health issues, the economic impact of the crisis. And this is why, where possible, people were sent to remote work. For those sectors which could not be operated remotely and hence there was a high infection risk or alternatively the risk of unemployment, for example in production and gastronomy, some countries introduced totally new partial employment. Core of all of this was the prevention of infections at the workplace and hence the provision of safe work environments. Never before has the importance of effective safety and health concepts at work been more clear to the people than with COVID-19. Some of the hygienic measures might be cost and complicated, and the concepts pose further efforts to both to the workers and employers. But the effectiveness was proved immediately with sinking numbers of infections. In the pandemic year 2020, occupational accidents in Germany went down by 13%, according to the numbers of German social accident insurance. Experts presume that these numbers are related to the temporary closing of companies and for sure by teleworking from home, which also lead to a reduction of commuting accidents by 18%. Working from home might be a relatively simple and quick solution for some jobs in pandemic times, but this is not possible at all workplaces, nor can this be a permanent solution to reduce accidents for all time at every place. One argument for this: after 1.5 years of teleworking, we can see the first health-related consequences of this. Mental health issues, musculoskeletal disorders, and other diseases increase remarkably. The workplace at home is not per se the more safer and the more healthier. The long-term effects of an infection with COVID-19 and the consequences of the shifted work reality will be evidently visible only in the coming years. And they will occupy workers' compensation funds and health systems over the next decades. We will see that for sure. Furthermore, the pandemic has dramatically increased the international need and exchange of information about social security in general and work safety in special. The ISA promotes these exchanges of good practices. For example, we have dedicated web pages for OSH measures to support workers' compensation funds, employers, and workers with a collection of good practice examples and the Corona Prevention News Monitor. This monitor includes OSH management systems approaches, hygienic concepts, promotion flyers, health and safety instructions, posters for different sectors of economic activities, OSH platforms and apps for better exchange of information, infographics, etc. The number of hits on the named ISA products rose constantly during the pandemic, which indicates the increased interest of members. Especially our Vision Zero strategy met even more interest than ever. While we already can count over 15,000 supporters, the strategy proved again to be a tool that can be applied with its flexibility in companies and organizations of any size and any economic activity to improve their OSH performance. It also helps to apply and teach safety and health when working from home. Ladies and gentlemen, successful prevention management remains to be dependent on the commitment of both workers and employers. While workers' compensation boards play a key role in delivering OSH prevention strategies, the commitment of employees to the prevention efforts is crucial, even more when working remotely as click workers or as self-employed. The past has shown again and again that the companies with safe work environments were those with the highest economic stability, and this especially in times of crisis. They included safety and health in every decision, for example, when rising their production capacity or developing their businesses. This stability is not a result of good luck, but the consequence of investments in prevention, which is also proved by scientific studies such as the ESA's International Return on Prevention Studies. It's not nothing new, but it is something true. Prevention pays off. And that is what we need to realize every time, every day, every second, as a worker and also as an employer. The message is that investment in prevention, in safe and healthy workplaces, mean investing in the welfare and prosperity of one's own society, economy, and hence into one's own country. In conclusion, it gets clear that we have new challenges through the pandemic, but also new possibilities of prevention in the old, in the current, and in the new world of work. We need to seize the situation to build better forward, as the recovery will be digital in most branches. The world of work is changing. Yes, we all know that, but that means that there will be workplaces in the future, not less, hopefully even more than the ones we have on this time. But there are different workplaces. There will be more digital and different in the way we work. The labor market transformation was accelerated by the pandemic, and this development will continue with or without us as experts in prevention. So let's be part of it. Our responses are required to be more rapid and flexible according to the new work reality. And we have the right instruments. So let's make use of it. Go for it. We are the right ones to make even the new world of work a safe and healthy world. I trust that we will achieve it. And by this, I hope that we will have a successful meeting, and I hope to see you soon in person and not back again here on the screen. Greetings from Berlin.
Thank you very much to Berlin and thank you to Professor Dr. Joachim Breuer for his presentation on behalf of the International Social Security Association, which, as we all know, is the initiator of the Vision Zero campaign and strategy. So, and with this, I have now the great pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Joaquim Pintado Nunes, who is the Chief Officer for this area in the International Labour Organization, better known as the ILO. Another Joaquin, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Hans. And of course, it goes without saying that I would love to be there with you, hopefully next time. So let me start by thanking ORP for the invitation and also congratulate you for the agenda of this Congress. I think that the topics are quite relevant, and even the theme in terms of preparing the Great Reset for, well, we hope that we'll be preparing the Great Reset for next year and years to come. So today we know that many workplaces take very seriously already the goal of zero work-related injuries and diseases, especially in the context of industrialized countries like in the European region and companies of some size. We have all come to good terms with the idea that all risk factors are controllable if the right policies, measures, and resources are in place. We have progressed in building a culture of prevention. We have recognized that the measurement of global economic and social progress cannot forget the OSH dimension, and for this, we have included as part of the Sustainable Development Goals a particular indicator, as you know, measuring the reduction in injury rates. We understood that prevention of work-related accidents and diseases is a core element of decent work. So with all that we have learned over the years, we would think that the Vision Zero is no longer a long-term prospect, but a reality that is already out there. Well, this is the case for some workplaces, but I would dare to say not for most of the workplaces. We are still far from this goal. According to our recent estimates on the global burden of disease developed with WHO and launched in September this year, we found that at least 1.9 million people died from exposure to 19 occupational risk factors in 2016. Of all the work-related fatalities, 81% were due to disease. And I would like to call your attention that these estimates still do not consider the COVID-19 dimension. So we will have to, of course, we'll have to update these estimates to incorporate this dimension as well. So if the Vision Zero concept proves to be challenging in practice in so many workplaces, and I would say also in many countries, we must ask ourselves why. First of all, we have to say, and this was already expressed here, that it is an attainable goal, but it requires a philosophy of continuous improvement leading to the construction of a preventive culture. And for this to happen, all of we, and when I say all of we, I refer to international organizations, governments, employers, workers' representatives, and of course, OSH professionals, have to adopt another culture, which is the culture of collaboration and engagement. One thing is certain, we cannot achieve the objectives of the Vision Zero concept if the safety and health ecosystem in all of its elements does not provide the enabling conditions required to adopt the adequate measures. It goes well beyond the workplace and asks for a systemic approach looking at the origin of the hazard, as we all know. It requires governments in consultation with employers and workers' organizations to establish, maintain, progressively develop, and periodically review a national system that should include laws and regulations, compliance mechanisms, arrangements to promote cooperation between management and workers at the workplace level, an active national specialized tripartite advisory body on OSH, public and private information services, providing advice and technical assistance to all kinds of workplaces, social protection options for those that indeed suffer an accident or a disease due to work, and effective mechanisms of information and communication so that we all understand, the society in general understands the importance of safety and health at work. Well, I don't want to be negative at all. Consensus on the relevance of OSH has been growing, and this is an important indicator that the construction of a global culture of prevention is progressing. In 2019, when the ILO celebrated its centenary, the governments, employers, and workers' representatives of our 187 member states have all agreed in what we call the ILO Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work, that OSH is fundamental for decent work. Already this year, in 2021, our global call to action for a human-centered COVID-19 recovery has also given a central place to occupational safety and health. So what is guiding the action of the ILO when it comes to OSH and also contributing, of course, to the Great Reset? Well, in 2003, and I think this is well known, the ILO has adopted the global OSH strategy, which defines the 5 interconnected pillars that continue to lead our strategies and interventions in different countries. These, I would say, are the minimum elements that we need to continue to progressively build the so-called preventative culture. First of all, advocating for OSH so that the central place it has for the protection of human life, business sustainability, and societal progress is known and recognized by all. Then defining, respecting, and implementing a recognized framework of rights, responsibilities, and duties, according to which employers ensure, as far as reasonably practicable, that workplaces under the direct or indirect control are safe and without risk for the health of workers, and also that workers cooperate with employers on the fulfillment of this obligation that they have. We need, of course, a systems approach to safety and health that requires that all elements and the interconnection of these elements are considered equally relevant. If one fails, the whole system will fall apart. We all know that. We need to strengthen institutional capacity so that the needed expertise is available to all, well, to all workplaces. We need to facilitate access to OSH knowledge, also adapting our message to the different audiences that we want to reach. So just in a couple of words also, what is the ILO doing recently to prepare for this great reset or to assist countries that are still going through, let us say, a major crisis when it comes to COVID-19, and I think this will still be the case for next year in some regions and countries, not hopefully in Europe. Well, we are adapting our normative framework. New international labor standards are being prepared on biological hazards, on ergonomics and human factors, on safety of machinery, and also on the consolidation of the chemical hazards instruments. Tripartite technical guidelines are also being prepared on the same issues. As you may also know, our constituents have been discussing already for a while the possibility of OSH becoming a fundamental principle and right at work. So what does this mean? If this happens, it would mean that every single member state of the ILO, so our 187 member states, would have the obligation to promote, to respect, and to realize the right to safety and health at work, independently of ratifying or not ratifying the relevant conventions. So this would be, let me say, a revolution when it comes to the application of the provisions of on safety and health at work. We have also been refocusing our priorities. We want to work more on risk factors leading to diseases, well, namely due to the recent estimates that we have. And this includes, of course, mental health and all the new forms of work. Particular business models, in particular, especially micro enterprises and global supply chains, and also, for us, very important, the informal economy. We also want to continue to advocate for OSH at a global level, namely through the Global Coalition for Safety and Health at Work. I will finish in 2 minutes, but let me just also make a reference to a specific initiative of the ILO also, based around the concept of Vision Zero, and this is the Vision Zero Fund. The Vision Zero Fund, as you may know, is a fund managed by the ILO that started as a G7 initiative, later on endorsed by the G20, which works with global supply chains currently in 3 sectors: agriculture, garment, and construction. We focus in low-income countries, and what I would like to mention is that the fund follows an approach that we call the collective action approach. And this is an approach that calls all institutions with a role to play on OSH to work together to address the issues, the challenges that we will find in the targeted supply chains in the different countries where we operate. Really, to finish, just to share with you some lessons learned out of the operation of the Vision Zero Fund over the most recent years. And this, what I'm going to say is no news for none of us, but even so, let me close my intervention with this. Well, first of all, any single intervention on OSH needs to be based on knowledge. We need to know what are the drivers, what are the constraints that can facilitate or work as bottlenecks for OSH improvements. Good solutions do not necessarily require large investments. Sometimes they are very simple. We always need to combine workplace improvements with work at the institutional level. again, building the capacities of national institutions. Collective action, joint efforts really work. We have the evidence of this. And again, my final words here, we need to reinforce the business case that OSH is a good investment. It is not a cost, or it is much more than a cost. Only with this, following this logic or philosophy, will we be able to build back better and avoid the next pandemic to come to place. Thank you, Hans-Horst, and back to you.
Thank you indeed, Joaquin, for this exciting presentation. And I think we all are looking forward to that finally safety, health, and well-being at work become a basic human right. I think this is really an amazing progress. And as you said, a revolution in the thinking about safety, health, and well-being. As something isolated, it becomes something really social and societal. So now I have the great pleasure to introduce Mr. Stefan Ulzer, who is the director at DG Employment for Working Conditions and Social Dialogue of the European Commission, that I think all of you know is one of the really leading forces when we talk about establishing a level playing field that respects safety, health, and well-being to the highest possible standards. So we are very pleased to have you on board and to share with us some exciting news about the European strategy for safety, health, and at work. Please, Stefan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Hans-Horst, and thank you and Christian and Basi for inviting European Commission and for doing all of this. Very interesting statements already, and I'll try to be I'll try to focus on some complementary points because the two Joachims have been very, very clear and made the most important points when it comes to zero vision. From the European Commission's perspective, I think the first thing to highlight is really that we are at a very important moment in time, and therefore I think your organization of this event and the whole fair and is very timely. I mean, we are coming out of the pandemic. We still have some work to do, as we all know, but at the same time, we are going into tackling these three big issues: the digital transition, the green transition, and the demographic changes. And here we have, from an EU perspective, a bigger budget than ever before. We are focused on the recovery, and we're now approving the so-called RRPs, the recovery plans by all the member states, and doing the first payments. And there'll be many changes here in the economy being spurred on by this. And it is essential that OSH has a key role here, and that OSH follows all this change, and that we're not staying put in old habits and old systems, but that OSH develops together with all of this. I think this is our main theme for the strategic framework. And we will be following this closely together with the European Council and the European Parliament in order to make sure that the European approach to OSH really is inherent in this big change. And in this context, the zero vision is a very, very important concept because here it's a flexible and very important tool also in communication terms, because I think this being part of this transition also means reaching out beyond all the connoisseurs that we have here today and beyond the normal stakeholders. I feel this daily in my work. I'm speaking to a lot of people who are not so used to working with OSH, and then using the zero vision concept as a heading and as a very good introduction to explaining what it is we want to reach with all our work on OSH is a very important tool. Joaquin indicated all the the big challenges we have still with all the illnesses, all the deaths, and it's clear to us that the figures are unacceptable. EU has made an enormous progress, but still any death or disease is too much, and that has to be the real theme when we go into remodeling our economy. And therefore we put the zero vision at the heart of the new strategic framework. And as I think that most of you know, the strategic frameworks are very important tools, because this is not just a program of actions coming from the EU, but it is really asking all actors to do their strategic frameworks, which also the member states do. And so it's a very successful way of working. And here we will then work together very closely with social partners and member states to make sure that the zero vision then becomes a bit of the headline on top of the national strategies. And as was indicated by the two Joachims, prevention is really the key. We need to reinforce the prevention idea, not fall back into the repair but we need to keep promoting the prevention in the context of these transitions. And that means investigating all accidents and illnesses. It means by identifying the causes of these work-related damages. It means increasing awareness of the risks, and it means strengthening enforcement of existing rules and guidelines. And looking at the program here, many of these issues are coming up, and I think how we work on these separate issues with new technology, with more modern processes, that is really the key. And I know that this is something that you work on every day, Hans-Horst, and that's where we can really, I think, develop further. So if we then go into the Commission side, we are improving our data collection. We have in the very important tripartite advisory committee, we have a dedicated Vision Zero working group. We work with the OSHA, with the information tools to raise awareness. And very importantly, OSH became a principle in the social pillar. And these actions have become a central part in the social pillar action plan, which is really the program for EU action in the social area. And here we also have a new indicator on fatal accidents at work in the social scoreboard. So this is the first time really that we have an OSH indicator in our different frameworks. So that was also very important. And again, that highlights this need and willingness to accompany these transitions and the actions in the context of the transitions with very strong action on OSH. Then we are looking forward now. The strategy is as you know, for 7 years, but we will have an OSH summit in 2023 to take stock. And I think here our action on Vision Zero will be brought up, and where are we? What can we do more will be a key issue here. And we've asked the member states to supply their updated plans ahead of that summit in the spring of 2023. So that will be an important moment for us. So I think with those words, not to repeat all the excellent presentations that we've heard already. Again, many thanks to you for inviting us and for scheduling this event. And I'll be listening and watching very attentively this afternoon. Thank you very much.
So, thank you indeed, Stefan. I think also for a very exciting report from the European Commission. As I said, Europe has globally a leading position as regards safety, health and well-being at work, and not the least because of the efforts of the European Commission. And it's really great to hear how you are preparing, so to say, for the reset with new ideas and with new tools. And I think this all invites to more exchange on these topics, and this is, of course, one of the purposes of this event. But thank you very much indeed, Joaquin and Jochen in Berlin and Stefan in Brussels for let's say setting the stage in such an excellent way, in an exciting way. Now we go and dive deeper into some of the challenges that we have identified, and they go very much along with also what you have pointed out. So I hope that they can contribute also with some practices, because one of the focus of this event is really to share practices from the company level, where I believe really also authorities and institutions like yours can learn a lot, because the drive there, the dynamics there are really incredible, and I hope therefore this will be beneficial for all. So thank you very much indeed once again. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the great pleasure of introducing the chairperson of our first challenge for prevention, and that is Ms. Martina Hesse-Spötter. Martina is the chair of the ESA's Special Commission on Prevention. In my former function as Secretary General of the ESA, I had the privilege to work closely with Martina, so I'm especially happy that you are joining us today. As all of you will know, under Martina's leadership, the Special Commission developed the Vision Zero concept, the concept that brings us all together today. So there could be no better chairperson for this session about changing the mindset about protecting and promoting health and sustainability. So Martina, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Hans-Horst, for your friendly welcome. My name is Martina Hesse-Spötter, as Hans-Horst just pointed out. I'm the chairperson of the Special Commission. The Special Commission represents the 14 international prevention sections of the ESA. In 2017, we launched together the Vision Zero strategy at the World Congress for Safety and Health at Work. And since this time, incredible 16,000 companies, partners, and trainers have signed up for Vision Zero. So we speak no longer of a strategy, we speak of a real movement. It's my pleasure to moderate the first session of the program under the headline, Changing the Mindset about Protecting and Promoting Health and Sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, times are changing rapidly. Today, we are facing new challenges in the world of work. Digitalization and artificial intelligence are only two keywords in this context. On the one hand, we should not stop, of course, our work on the classical fields, safety and health. But at the same time, we have to find answers to new challenges. For the development in the world of work, the pandemic is like a strong motor, which things make go faster and faster. I'm sure we all have a lot of experience in the classical fields, safety and health. For many of us, well-being is a new territory on the way to develop a prevention culture in a company and to start a holistic approach. We are looking forward to hear two speeches now on the topic Vision Zero, both safety, health, and well-being at work. Our first speaker is Mr. Juan Manuel Cruz. Juan Manuel is working as Health and Safety and Sustainability Director at Acciona in Madrid in Spain. The second speaker on the topic, Vision Zero, both safety, health and well-being, is Ruth Kjelsmark. Ruth is HSEQ manager at Babcock Wilcox Volund in Denmark. I'm looking forward to hear about the experiences of Juan Manuel and Ruth. Both of these companies are global players, and it would be very interesting to hear how Juan Manuel and Ruth are working. The second part of the session under the headline, A People-Centered Prevention Approach, Caring About People, is about how to convince and to motivate people. With all our efforts for the environment and for safety and health, we can only be successful if we win over people's minds and hearts. We will hear two speeches referring to this topic. Mr. Gianluca Capodimonte from Philip Morris International in Switzerland will tell us about his approach. Gianluca has spent the last 14 years in the field environment, health and safety at the company. Since 2019, he's covering the position of Head of Environmental and Health Sustainability at Philip Morris International. Gianluca told me that all the programs he developed in the last 10 years at corporate and at regional level are people-centric and work to create engagement, not just to fulfill a legal obligation. Our second speaker referring to this topic is Philippe Delberg. He's working as corporate industrial hygiene toxicologist at L'Oréal in France. Philippe is in the industry for more than 30 years, 10 years in plastics and 22 years now in cosmetics. I would like to start with the presentations. I hand over to our first speaker, Juan Manuel Cruz from Acciona in Spain. A warm welcome to you, Juan Manuel.
Thank you very much, Martina, for the presentation. Of course, very appreciated and very honored. And of course, thank you very much, as always, to the ORP International Foundation and also to the A+A, Ms. and Basi, because for us, it's a very great opportunity to share our experience, talking about health and safety and, of course, well-being. That probably is the most important challenge in our world today. Let me share the presentation with you today, and it will be really focused on completing. Sorry about that. Completing the time that we have been provided to be sure that we really agree with the time proposed. First of all, I don't know if you can see my screen properly. Please, Martina, could you confirm?
Yes, we can see. I can see.
Okay,
José Manuel,
yeah.
Vemos la siguiente diapositiva. Ponlo en configuración para ver solo una.
Okay. No. Then let me check.
Arriba en configuración.
Yeah.
Arriba en configuración de visualización.
Okay. No, this is not the proper one. Sorry.
Perfecto.
Yeah, now
está perfecto ahora.
Okay, then. Okay, thank you very much. And then I have a few data, a few figures about Acciona. At this moment, we are close to 40,000. That data is at the end of July, and today we are almost 40,000. And this is the main figures about our company. I believe that most important question about this slide is that we are really carbon neutral since 2016, just 5 years ago, at a moment that the most important companies around the world are focused on being carbon neutral around 2025. But the most important information here is that we are really focused on sustainability, because our motto in 2004, 17 years ago, was Acciona pioneers in development and sustainability, and we included that word in our motto almost in a moment that no one, of course, it was not a clear expression, and a lot of people asked what about sustainability was at that moment. We are present in more than 40 countries at this moment. We cover most of Americas and Europe, and of course Southeast Asia, and very focused in Australia and New Zealand. Australia at this moment is probably the second country in terms of dimensions and figures, and it's quite relevant for us. And this is the map of our solutions and services. Of course, really focus on construction and energy, but also in some public services like water or some social services that they are getting more and more important relevance in our portfolio at this moment. But just to be sure that we are focused on the most important question today is talking about the Great Reset, because we have a new normal and we have two very, very different photographs in this slide. The first one is a photo in our company today. It's the new normal. A lot of spaces, clear spaces, people working from home at least 1 day per week, and really separated. The use of masks is mandatory, and this is more or less the image of our offices all around the world, depending on the countries, of course, but this is basically one example, typical example of our offices today. But this is only the 20% of our employees today. The 80% is working, or they are working in different places or different sites, like, for example, Cebu Link Bridge in Philippines, and of course, working in different water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, desalination plants, all kind of civil works, and of course, a lot of generation plants, photovoltaic and aeolic plants. And we need to be sure that when we talk about the future of health and safety and the future of the well-being, we are not only thinking on those people working in offices, because when we talk about well-being, it seems like we are always talking about those people in offices, but also we need to be sure that we cover the well-being needs for all those people that are working on sites or plants or services. If we don't do that clearly, we probably will forget that our company is civil works and infrastructures and energy company, and we are not only office-based work company. This is our main challenge today, and the main challenge is clearly how we can share and implement different solutions, not only for people working on offices or headquarters, but also to people working on sites, services, and plants. And how we can do that, we took some decision from the very beginning of the pandemic period. In April 2021, this is a video of our chairman. And the main message in that video, I'm not going to run that video because it's probably not relevant today, but the main message in that video was that we need to be sure that the main challenge is to ensure business continuity. And business continuity means not only people working from home, means basically people working safe and in the best healthy conditions at work. And of course, not only in the offices, but also in the working areas. It has been an incredible challenge and of course, a relevant investment to ensure that our sites, all our places or our plants and services were safe, health, and of course cover most of the well-being requirements that we set as the most important challenge. The result has been really interesting because at this moment in the last commitment and the last survey that we ran to all our employees, the commitment of the company talking about health and safety and of course well-being across the pandemic period has been probably the most relevant and the most best valued compromise from our company. And at the very beginning, we have we have a lot of doubts. We don't have a clear idea if those investments where we have a return of those investments in terms of productivity, of course, but the impact, the positive impact in terms of commitment, in terms of engagement, has been probably the best return of investment of that decision. Has been really, really interesting, and we are really proud about put business continuity based on the best health and safety and well-being standards in front of our strategy along the pandemic. But now we are facing the great challenge. And the great challenge is seriously the prevention and managing the emotional health and the mental health in our companies. This is a very, very interesting data, and I want to share with all the attendees, because the increase of the prevalence of depression and anxiety in our people all around the world. This is, of course, this is not only for our employees. This is a report from started from the Lancet, but the impact of COVID-19 in the anxiety and depression situations of prevalence all around the world is probably the most important challenge that we need to face in the next future. We have a lot of people working on sites. We have a lot of people working on services that they are under treatment, under medical support, and we need to be sure that we are able to recover all our employees to a previous or almost similar to the previous situation before COVID-19. This is a challenge. This is the main focus of our health services today in the company. And this is just an example, meeting points probably every month, just to talk about prevention and support people within the emotional health, and be sure that we provide tools and provide personal support to our people. Under the Spanish culture, and of course we are a Spanish company, although we are a global company, under the Spanish culture, talking about mental health is still something that is better not to talk about that. And we need to be sure that we put mental health and mental support in front of our health and safety strategy. And we are creating different KPIs, and we are creating new information just to be sure that we are covering all the mental health challenge around the world. I believe that at this moment, it's better if we finish the presentation just to be sure that we have enough time to for question and answers. Martina, if you want, the floor is yours. And I think it's better at this moment to finish here.
Thank you very much, Juan Manuel, for your speech and for the description of the situation in your company. Juan Manuel, you told us that your company is present in more than 40 countries all over the world, so it's a real global player. What I wanted to know, in your opinion, what is the most important factor in order to create a culture of prevention in a company? If you have an overall look at it.
Yeah, well, for us, we are working in probably the two of the most challenging sectors around the world, talking about health and safety, because heavy construction, civil construction is clearly one of the most important. And of course, energy generation also is rated at one of the most challenging sectors, talking about health and safety. I think we have a lot of things to learn, and one of the most relevant information, and for me, one of the most interesting questions that I need to face every day is that talking about 40 different countries, you have to learn from all those countries, not only for a typical, if you talk about, I don't know, Canada or the States or Australia or Germany, but you have to learn different questions from different countries. And of course, you have to understand how we can face, or how we're facing health and safety also in Australia or also in Philippines or also in Latin America. Because we have a clear idea about how we deal with main questions talking about health and safety, and that's clear that we are working probably the best countries to deal with. But from time to time, we discover new solutions and new considerations to add to our policies and procedures in different countries. And I don't know, for example, talking about working on AIDS, we have a lot of great solutions in Singapore or in Philippines. And sometimes we add small pieces of health and safety solutions or health and safety new procedures from different countries. And this is the best enrichment, the best of being a global company.
Thank you, Juan Manuel. I think these cultural aspects are always very interesting to see. It's not the same in every country, and you have to look what is the culture and how to get to the people, to convince people. That can be different, I think. Thank you so much, Juan Manuel, for your speech. And now I would like to invite Ruth Kjelsmark from Babcock & Wilcox Volund, Denmark, to share her experience with us. Ruth, here you are. I hand over to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Martina. I will share my presentation and share screen.
Wait a moment. Ruth, can you already hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
It seems like I'm not able to share my screen.
Okay.
Should you give me access or something like that?
I don't know if Hans Horst can help in this.
I can do it now. Thank you.
I think, yeah. There is a change now, but not the presentation.
I try again. I'll need to share the exact screen, I think.
Just try again.
Yeah.
No problem.
Window. Can you see a blue presentation?
Ruth, we are looking your Zoom screen, not a PowerPoint.
Yeah. I'll try again. And yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're seeing my Zoom screen and not the window with my showing my PowerPoint.
Hola. I don't have the root PowerPoint. No, sorry.
I'll try again.
Okay.
Yeah, We don't have Ruth's presentation, so we cannot show it from Barcelona.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Okay.
So
I'll just try again. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You want to try once again, Ruth? I think now we see your screen.
I see a blue screen now with Vision Zero.
No, you are. We are looking at one email.
You see a mail from you.
Yeah. So
but we see
somehow
your
I have
screen.
to. Yeah, I have to choose the right one. So
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
just that it's only letting me choosing. Sorry.
Yeah.
The ones
No
with
problem.
my.
You have some minutes.
We try again. Here, share screen. I closed my email now, so I think it's maybe
I
getting
think
closer.
we saw your screen, so that is the right way.
Mm-hmm.
No. That looks good.
It does?
Yes, I see a presentation.
That's great.
In the full modus, but yeah, now it's, I think, perfect.
Great.
Bravo.
Great. It's working.
It is great. Then I'll just continue with the content. Yeah. So what I will present today is a journey that Babcock & Wilcox Volan has done from a normal risk management approach to a more prevention culture setup. And I will briefly just introduce to you that Babcock & Wilcox Volan, it's a part of the Babcock & Wilcox company. It's a global company with headquarters in Ohio in the United States. And the part that is the Volan part is a part of renewable business, where we erect and produce and make service on waste to energy plants and biomass to energy plants. So we are also into heavy construction, into production, into technical work. And it's important also to understand that that's the environment that we are working in. And it's also the health and safety issues that has been our concerns for the years. That's what's going on in working at height, hot work, confined space, heavy transport, and all that. It's important to say that our Vision Zero journey started in 2015, and the headline for our journey is called the Target Zero. And we have also, as the Vision Zero mindset, we have also some taglines that's very important for us to work with, and that's a backbone of everything that we do. It's important for us to have as a leading star that zero is achievable and incidents are preventable. Also that safety is personal, it's not only system-based, and that everybody in all kinds of situations should have a personal willingness to intervene if you doubt anything or if you see that anything is unsafe, or if you see that it can contribute to a later unsafe situation. And when we have started this journey, we have started with engaging the top management in the company with this entire framework. And as a basic tool for that, we have done a training session all over the world, actually, for Babcock and Wilcox managers in US, in Europe, in Scandinavia, in India, in China. So it's the same language that we are speaking. So we started from the top, and in the matter of getting everybody to have a buy-in from the top, the training sessions also with the top managers from CEO and downwards was some kind of a dialogue concept, and the dialogue was created a little bit like a game with a lot of dialogue cards, and the game field was what you see on the poster here. It was then on the table, and the discussion was, or the training was a discussion actually, where we traveled through all our tools and discussed it, and got a personal understanding of all the underlying core values in our leading target zero training. After this, then all other managers on secondary and third level got the same training, creating the engagement. And the year after, all more than 4,000 employees got through the training as well. And they got to give examples one by one why zero is achievable and how they can themselves contribute to that. They had to use their own words like safety and health and well-being at work, or willingness to intervene, and how to make caring conversations to your body or your colleague. And even our production employees, they got the same training with the same poster, not on a table in a training room, but on some pallets in their own production environment, to make sure that it was a part of the daily work, what we talked about, and not something far away in some smart training room. So that's how we started it, and how we then made sure that this health and safety prevention culture was a part of our company continuously, year by year. We have had this health and safety commitment process where we each year made sure that our that each manager, actually from team leader and upwards, the people that are reporting to him or her, is called in his team or his group or his management group, and the manager then has to demonstrate his own engagement in this Vision Zero approach, and we also discussed our seven sentences that describe our safety culture and our prevention approach, with underlying sentences as well. And this is a session that's going on year after year after year, where we discuss examples of each of the lines and give examples from our work or from our personal life, to retell to each other that it is important for us. And it, as you also know, it can be hard to roll things like that out and get buy-in from everywhere. But we have we have our experiences. The two best ways to make sure that this is working. One is that it is a request and something that is wanted from the top management, and that's how it starts every year. It's the CEO that says, now we are taking the safety commitment process once again in February and March. And the other way that we also make sure that it runs is that everybody has a documented task in our system, and we can demonstrate how far we are from reaching 100% and who is behind. So this KPI is also a strong KPI to make sure that people is actually doing what they're doing, and they're doing it on top of a training the managers, so they're never left behind. But I also want to touch on something that is very important for me. It is that the safety, for instance, in this tough construction environment, it is not a standalone thing. The healthy conditions and the well-being for everybody in our office work, and also for our workers and our construction workers, it's also contributed by their psychological working environment, their well-being. And the way we have worked with that is that we have defined very detailed what is our preferred level for well-being, and it's also defined what we don't want to see, like harassment and violence. It's very well defined, and it is also rolled out in training sessions, again for managers and also for employees. So they know what to expect, and they also know how their way of working and way of treating their co-workers, what expectations they meet. And then we have utilized some kind of survey to visualize what is the level of working with psychological working environment, and what is the level of well-being. Together with the working environment organization, the HR and the HSE, we have developed a questionnaire, and to make it short, it is the closest manager that follow up on his own report, and he's then asked to take a dialogue with his or her department or team, and set at least 3 improvement ambitions, and that's our way to both to focus on it, but also to create a positive development.
Bruce, we have 2 minutes left now.
Yeah,
only for your
information. I will wrap up on this one and say that that one thing that we are focused on is leading indicators, because we of course track the normal KPIs for safety, and the leading indicators we have summed up in what we call the leading indicator, or the safety energy rate. So we register all the proactive initiatives that we do. It's about well-being, it's about proactive safety, and we take the pride in having KPIs for leading indicators instead of lagging indicators as a part of our prevention culture. And I will close up saying that in the future, our Vision Zero leading indicators will be merged even more with the employee well-being, because we find it important for attracting workers from the new generation and retaining also the older ones actually, and maintaining a good and preventing safety culture. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ruth, for describing your journey to Vision Zero. I think that's a nice image to choose it, to describe it as a journey. And I think you described you started with the leaders. I think that's a success factor for your journey. And my feeling is you brought it to the people. You talked the language of the people, and you don't did it in a theoretical way, but very practical. That's my impression. So maybe very, very briefly, a question to you, Ruth. You are a HSEQ manager. I would like to know, how would you describe your role within the company? Do you work closely together with all the other departments, or what would you say? Very close in 2 or 3 sentences.
Yeah, I can answer. Yeah, I work closely with all the other departments. I have a role in the process chain, from suppliers and purchasing, new contracts, planning, execution, and I also have that role in writing health and safety into all procedures. And I think it's important that it's not a standalone pillar, the safety and the safety culture. It's a part of what we call the core work. So health and safety and the core work goes hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's the key word for success for health and safety.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Ruth, for pointing that out. I think that's an important point. Thank you for your speech. And now we go directly to our next speaker, Gianluca Capodimonte from Philip Morris in Switzerland. Welcome, Gianluca.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this conversation around sustainability, as I would like to introduce, because it's not only about health and safety. So we will try to see how we can integrate everything together.
Yes, Gianluca, I give directly the floor to you.
Yes, I share my screen. I hope that this will go smooth. I think that you should see my presentation on the screen. I try to make it bigger to facilitate the reading. So thanks a lot for inviting. So it's a big pleasure to be here, learning from the others. Now I have a very important task to give interest for the subject for those that are connected after these excellent presentations that we have seen so far. My name is Gianluca, working in Philip Morris since 2003. In the last 14 years, as Martina said, in the area of environment, health and safety. So Philip Morris in numbers, we are a large company. There are 70,000 plus passionate people that are working in. We are covering more than 180 markets. We have a big usage of R&D scientists because we have a mission. We would like to stop selling cigarettes as soon as possible, to propose to our consumer products with a potentially reduced risk, adult smoker, of course. We have 150 million consumers worldwide. We are owning 6 of the most known brand in the top 15 when it comes to tobacco industry. And currently we have 38 production centers that are occupying basically 50,000 people altogether. So how many times you have heard this sentence? People is our most valuable asset. I don't like to treat people as asset, because to me the word asset reminds machinery, material things, and I think that it would be better to treat them as a persons, with their individuality, with their weaknesses, with their strengths. So starting from this principle, we put together quite a complex system to be sure that we keep people at the center of the attention. Because it's true that we are delivering results through our people, And if we want to have a sustainable business, we need to be a sustainable company. I like to quote also our CEO saying that strategy, sustainability is not part of our strategy. It's the strategy. So if we want to stay a long time in the market, as we heard before, attracting talents, taking care of our population that of course is aging, so having the possibility to retain them as long as we can, we need to put together an ecosystem. So when we look at our people, I like to think about the hardware, the body, the physical integrity. So being sure that every day we go back home, maybe a bit tired, but still without any kind of physical impact, and the software, which is made of brain, all the knowledge, skills, capabilities that we need to develop continuously, and also our emotions. Especially after COVID, we understood that there is a huge psychological element that makes our company stronger or weaker, depending how good we are in reacting in difficult situations. So COVID time has been a big test for the organization to see how resilient we are, and also how strong the fabric of our social interaction is, because we started to work remotely and we started to miss the personal interaction. And from, as I like to say, three-dimensional, we became bidimensional. So working through the screens, working through Zoom and so on. So we have let's say, robust programs in our manufacturing floors. I like to mention Open Plus, which is our lean manufacturing system that has a strong EHS pillar, which means that we have been able to cascade routines to protect people, to prevent injuries on the floor. And each working group is taking care of assessment that are done on the floor, preparing, let's say, the workplace to work safely, being alerted when something is not up to the expectations in terms of standards, and of course, continuously improving this system. And the system is taking care of all the domains: environment, looking after waste management, energy management, water management, health and well-being, having a proper break, having also relaxed moment, and checking what is the overall condition of the teams that are working on the floor, and of course safety through a big, let's say, a toolbox with different tools that we are using every day. So Mission Zero, because we care, is our flagship for safety that we introduced in 2011, and embraces and somehow is a twin of a Vision Zero. We really like to go and participate in the Vision Zero because we found so many commonalities with the program that we couldn't skip it, because it's too beautiful to see this good alignment in terms of vision, intention, and effort. Plus, we are working on manufacturing of the future. As I said, we are all the companies, big ones, but also the small ones, are in transformation. We are coming from Industry 4.0, digitalization, and this is bringing a lot of challenges for the people working. They need to learn new skills, new things. The technology is changing. The interaction between machine and man is totally different. We are introducing collaborative robots that are making our life easier somehow, but they are creating also a psychological issue, because maybe we are concerned or scared that the machine will take our job soon. There is something in between. During COVID, we had quite comprehensive programs because we saw that the situation was quite serious and we need to provide with a fast response to our people. In the emotional part, we realize more and more that people like to take care of the environment as well, also in the workplace. So we had initiatives about waste minimization, reducing the waste in general, but specifically in the last 3 years, we were focusing on reducing the waste to landfill, which is the worst one that we can produce and manage. So this is just an example, but there is a continuous care, attention to integrate also these environmental elements into daily life of our people. Being a top employer is important because, as been already mentioned, we need to be attractive for the new generations. Millennials for sure have different expectations if I compare them with my generation. And continuous learning. So lifelong learning is important for several reasons, because to be competitive in the market, we need to be up to the game, up to the speed that the market is calling for, but also to give a possibility to those people that might not be able to do the switch from the current job to the new one, to be still valuable and having the possibility to find another job in the unfortunate case that they wouldn't be able to continue. So our approach, first of all, we need to integrate the personal values with the values of the company. So sustainability is something that is becoming more and more popular on the media. We see what's happening with the climate change. We see also at social level what happened with the COVID. And I think that we heard before from the other presenters that having safe performance in the factory will be more and more important to establish credibility. So when we talk about environmental health, well-being, and safety, somehow we are talking about the same subject. It's something that is relating to the people, to the planet, and we need to consider them in a holistic approach. So using empathy, so customer and human-centered business. So if you take care of our people, for sure people will take care of the business. And this comes through a certain number of initiatives that we need to produce, but not only based on a top-down approach. There is a listening part, which is extremely important because we need to give a response to our colleagues. System approach. So it's important, especially for large organizations, to have a robust system that are sitting, as I mentioned before, on lean systems, are sitting on certifications. We are still a big believer that having structured systems helps, because especially in times of turbulence, like we saw during COVID, having a robust framework helps to avoid to lose the route, to be lost in these turbulent periods. So it's important that to have this holistic view on environment, health, and safety, to build a safe business and also a healthy organization. You see in this slide the EHS with different fonts, because in my initial experience in this sector, environment was quite important. Health was somehow given. The attention was not so high. All the care went to safety, because cause effect are immediate. So if something happens, goes wrong, you will see immediately the results. Now the aim is to bring these three fundamental elements of the, I would say, life of the people at the same level of importance. And of course, resilience. Being always ready to innovate, anticipate the problems. So having this preventative approach in all the things that we are doing, starting, of course, with safety, but embedding in the decision-making process what happens to the people, what happens to the planet, what happens to the impact that we have on the society. And of course, this needs sometimes to take brave actions, going outside our comfort zone. So quick overview about some examples that I can give you. COVID response plan. We saw from Acciona, and we had a similar approach. Extremely important giving people care, helping with practical things like providing with masks, with hand sanitizer. We started to produce by our own hand sanitizer because there was a huge scarcity. Creating occasions to stay together, even if in a virtual way, giving employee assistance programs, because psychologically speaking, COVID was quite a big earthquake, so was really changing our perception of the life. Healthy Moments. This is a program that we are working now for the people that are working on the floor, on the machine. So we will have breaks during the day where through big screens, people can do stretching, can take a moment to relax the body, especially those that are exposed to more frequent movements and where the physical part of the work is still dominant. So it's a responsibility of the team leader to ensure that these healthy moments are taken regularly in order to maintain our population fitting for the job. Stress prevention, we have a global project, and more specifically in Europe, we have also the involvement of the European Work Council about stress. We are running surveys very similarly to what we have seen before to identify the priorities, where to start from, because when we talk about occupational health and well-being, it's quite big subject. We need to slice, and then we decided to start with the stress prevention, and inside there are many things that we can do from the organizational point of view, from building your own resilience. So this should be a joint effort from the company to identify which stressors we are giving to the people, but also helping people to deal with the stress that is coming from external factors, things that we cannot manage. So we have an integrated work system I mentioned before. We work very hard to create qualification metrics. So being sure that everybody knows exactly what is needed for the job that is changing. And of course, in this qualification metrics, there is a lot of safety, there is a lot of understanding of sustainability, environmental sustainability, and how, as a company, as individual, we can help the planet to get better, because now we need to take very strong action to recover as soon as possible. Otherwise, this could be too late. Lifelong learning.
1 minute.
Yes.
1 minute
Yes,
left.
thank you. Thanks. So lifelong learning is fundamental. So if you stop learning, you stop yourself. And I think this is an attitude that we need to continually foster and support the organization with, because will be for sure a key winning factor. And also psychologically speaking, knowing that you are always ready and up to the speed that the current times are asking for, it's a factor that can help. A collaboration platform, idea generation. So we give a lot of space for people to contribute to our programs like Zero Waste to Landfill, but now there is a lot of demand about that. Rewarding and recognition. So pricing people for their commitment, their effort every month, everywhere. We have a celebration of those individuals, those people that are helping us to achieve our goals in EHS. And also measuring the sustainability climate. We have a survey system that is including questions about health, well-being, and environment. And we are receiving a lot of a good proposal how to be better in all our factories in terms of sustainability. Last but not least, sometimes also the small actions are important. This is an article from the newspaper in Bologna from Easter time. So when you talk about taking care of people, this is an example. During Easter, the company decided to send a full meal in each family to celebrate Easter time. So they were preparing 1,500 meal box with the typical food that we have for Easter, and this was delivered at home. It was a simple action, but made a big emotional impact, and during COVID, it was putting people close to each other. That's it.
Thank you, Gianluca, for describing this really person-centered and holistic approach at Philip Morris. If you promise me to answer very, very short, one question: what are the most important challenges for the future? Just one or two things to mention.
For the future, being ready for this transformation, where we will have much more automation, where we need to put together different generations with different wishes, different background. These two will be big. So being able also to keep always learning new things without getting too much anxiety.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we go directly to our next speaker now, I think. I invite Philipp Delberg corporate industrial hygiene toxicologist at L'Oréal in France, to speak about how to manage life risk at his company. Philip, are you here?
Yes.
Hi, here you are.
Okay.
Well, welcome.
Thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm going to be very straight to the point because I know that we're short in time. So I'm going to spare you the presentation of the group L'Oréal, and I'm going to jump directly.
Thank you for that. We directly start.
Yes. You see my screen?
Yes. It's all okay. We see it. Thank you.
So today I'm going to speak about the Life Risk Program. That's an initiative that had been starting before the pandemic, but I'm going to tell you that nothing was prevented because of the pandemic. We still worked on this program. So what is life risk? Life risk is about all the different major events that could affect life. I mean, we all know about accidents that could lead to a fatality or serious injuries, but we needed to fine-tune this definition and then find some recipes to definitely tackle those events. This program involves both the sustainability of actions and as well as the preparedness to restart the process after the incident. And this is very important in light of the pandemic today. So about life, two categories that are going to split the different life risks that we have identified. Two levels. One is Life 1. Life 1 stands for all the requirements that could lead to either multiple fatalities or injuries if the requirement is not met. Life 2 is another level, another graduation, which results in a single injury in case the requirements are not met. So we have that graduation that enables to sort out the different situations. In case of Life 1, that's really very, very sharp. Nothing is started again if the installation has not turned back to compliance. There is no complacency. Life 2, there is some margin of discussion, especially when we have some spare parts or some repairs that take a lot of time. But usually, if there is some margin of discussion on Life 2, usually the action plan has to be filled in within 1 month. In terms of life risk controls, we have one big directive, which is about like the 10 commandments. And then we have 10 life risks that have been described downwards, which results in 3 times more directives and one communication campaign that was triggered a few years before the pandemic. What do we have to control those risks? We have, first of all, the commitment of the whole organization. It starts through a top-down approach with a site management that is very committed to have very strict compliance. Nothing is negotiable, period, nothing. Zero tolerance, zero complacency. And this process has to be revised, of course, annually with some nuance in case of management of change that has to be included in the whole process. Of course, we get some new equipments every year, so we need also to include those equipments in the annual plan. So in terms of tools, what do we have? We have first a risk teaser that is initiated every 4 months, roughly. And we have 3 different posters that are shared within the team so that everyone can use them in their team meetings. We also have some memos for the managers. And on top of that, we have one flyer that is describing the whole process. So we have a couple of tools that we are distributing every 4 months in order to make sure that all the sites have the right message at the right time. So the 10 risks are spread on this sheet. And in fact, they all share the same common points. They are all based on risk assessment, which is key, which results in permits with reference to lockout and tagout. All these efforts are leaning on basic rules and regulations, as well as some instructions that are given to the people at the shop floor. There is a big pinch of common sense and sense of organization. And this boils down to signage and minor investment at the show floor, while the biggest ingredient in this whole recipe is training, practice, and so on, and so on, and so on, as always in safety. So in terms of conclusion, key takeaways, the implementation for one life risk process takes about 6 months after the first local assessment. And as I said before, if something is not compliant, it's stopped, period, until it has been solved. The compliance rate on the different topics that have been implemented is very optimal. And a positive side of it is that we have seen a reduction of lost time accidents by 50%. That was a nice consequence. Of course, everybody feels very, very proud of this process. It's a top-down pride, and the leadership is shared amongst the whole organization. And of course, it's a lot related to common sense and concern, to such an extent that even during the pandemic, there was no slowdown. Even if the plants were at zero activity, the thinking process was still acting. And when during the restart of the plants, this enabled us to really be at the top level of preparedness in order to avoid the life incidents, especially at the restart of activities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Philippe, and congratulations to your very successful program. No tolerance approach, of course, for saving lives. There can be no tolerance. One question to you. Mm-hmm. How to ensure that the dynamic of such a process, of such a project, is always on the optimum in such a long time, in a longer time? What have you done to this?
On the long run, the thing that really works is getting to people, speak to them constantly, and get them prepared. It's all about rehearsing. It's all about saying the same thing all the time, so that the guys are never surprised.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good thing to do. I think that's it. Thank you very much, Philippe, for your speech. Thanks again to all our speakers in this session. For me, it was very interesting to hear from our speakers how companies deal with safety, health, and well-being under these changing conditions. I think what we need are winning the leaders as a role model. We need active linking up of all these areas in a holistic approach that was mentioned several times. We needed had to fit to the persons we want to win over. And the best concept, of course, is worth nothing when it's only on a paper. It has to be accepted. It has to be brought to life. We have to involve and to convince people to act. So it's always about people. With this, I will close the session 1. Thanks again to all speakers. Thanks for staying with us, to the audience. Stay safe and healthy. And with this, I hand over to Hans-Horst. Thank you, Hans-Horst.
Thank you very much indeed, Martina, for your excellent introduction, moderation, and also now for summarizing some of the key messages of a topic that is absolutely critical for building a healthy and sustainable prevention culture. As the business case is presented by Juan Manuel, Ruth, Gianluca, and Philip clearly have demonstrated. And I think what we learned is there's not a one-size-fits-all, which is exactly also the concept of Vision Zero, to be flexible, to allow the concept to adjust to the different circumstances of a company, but always has one focus, which is people. And so thank you very much, Martina. It has been a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Hans-Horst.
Now, please welcome with me the chair of our second challenge, which is the digitalization in the service of prevention. And I very much welcome Ms. Pernille Tau. Pernille is Department Manager at Human House Leadership and OHS, which is the leading Danish OSH consultancy. Human House is actively promoting Vision Zero in Denmark and hosts the Danish Vision Zero Business Council, which is one of the co-organizers of our event today and tomorrow. So Pernille, it's great to have you here once again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hans Horst, and thank you for the invitation. I will start by briefly introducing the theme on how we can use digitalization in the service of prevention. And please allow me to share my screen to just give you an introduction to this exciting theme. And then I will pass on the word to our three very interesting speakers afterwards. I hope that you are able to see my screen.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay. So let's start by defining what do we talk about when we talk about digitalization. And this is a wide variety of different themes and topics that includes advanced robotics, collaborative robots. It includes artificial intelligence. It includes mobile digital devices. And it also includes how we implement, for example, IT systems in our companies and organizations. And in order to use digitalization in the service of prevention, it basically comes down to how do we maximize the opportunities for occupational health and safety, and how do we do proper risk assessments on the challenges to occupational health and safety. And among the opportunities of introducing digitalization are, of course, that we increase the productivity, the flexibility, and the autonomy of our workplaces and of our leaders and our workers. And it also gives us the opportunity to a higher degree of diversity, enabling, for example, our elderly workers and also disabled people to stay longer in the workplace. It also enables us to reach higher prevention levels because the digitalization can enable to remove dangerous situations or to create less dangerous situations, to create less repetitive tasks, for example. It also enables us to do more efficient OSH training for remote work, for hybrid work, and so on. And the increasing amount of data also enables us to do more advanced workplace risk assessments. In order to do proper risk assessment on the challenges, we need to understand what kind of challenges do we face. And I think we have all experienced in the last 1.5 years the physical challenges from sedentary work, that we are sitting down too much when we work, and the consequences for musculoskeletal pain, less physical activity, and so on. We also need to face the new safety risks that comes with working with new types of robots, new work organization, and so on. And then, of course, the whole theme of cybersecurity. But what has been mentioned already several times, we need to look at the psychosocial consequences, also the well-being consequences of the digitalization. We need to risk assess on what does implementing, for example, a new IT system do to our stress levels, the work-related stress in connection with this? How do we cope with information overload in the individual worker, in the individual manager? How do we cope with the increasing complexity of work? What do we do about the risk of getting less social interaction if we continue with the hybrid work organization that we did in the last 1.5 years? And also, how do we manage to regulate occupational health and safety for all the remote workers that we have? In order to sway the balance, towards the opportunities, depends very much on how do we implement and regulate the challenges. In our experience in the human house, OSH is often driven by legislation, by procedures, that are based on past learnings. And that is in its nature a reactive way of thinking. COVID has tested our prevention systems, and maybe these last 1.5 years can inspire us to a more dynamic and more proactive thinking, where we use upcoming knowledge in relation to digitalization, for example, to quickly adapt to changed circumstances. So if we want to optimize the benefits of digitalization, we need to move from a passive and reactive way of thinking to a more proactive and creating way of thinking. An example, if we use the implementation of a new IT system, instead of just implementing the system without considering what possible OSH effects on well-being, for example, will it have if we implement this IT system, and only react if we get increased sick leaves due to stress and so on, we need to start thinking about what could be the OSH consequences of implementing the new IT system, so that we can, in an active way, try to balance the opportunities and the risks, and even better, try to prevent that implementation of a new IT system will get any negative OSH effects, but that we use the digitalization to be proactive in the service of prevention and ultimately create the best workplaces for our workers and managers. We think in Human House that the Vision Zero 7 Golden Rules provide a very relevant and practical, applicable system for evaluating both the possibilities but also the risk assessment of digitalization. So this is our take on how can you use the 7 golden rules for implementation of digitalization. And as you already are aware, I believe, it's about taking leadership, that management should demonstrate the commitment to finding out how a new digitalization strategy will affect us both in positive and more negative ways. We need to do risk assessments when we implement new technologies, also on well-being. We need to develop practical OSH leading indicators that are related directly to digitalization and the implementation of new technology. And when it comes to creating a system around this, we need to consider all the ethical issues, the ethical themes of implementing new technology. We need to use the digitalization to create prevention through design when we design machines, equipments, and workplaces. And you will see in a little while some excellent examples on this from some of the speakers. And also we need to understand that both managers and employees need to be educated in the effects of digitalization on their local working environment. Everyone is an expert, or no one is an expert when we introduce new technologies. So we need each other. We need to involve employees both in the design, but also in the implementation of new technologies into our workplaces. So with that brief introduction, I would like to pass on the floor to 3 interesting speakers. And the first theme that we are going to discuss is big data, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things, how digitalization can enable predictive prevention concepts and tools. And the first speaker is Mr. Winton Young, who is the principal consultant at the Occupational Safety and Health Council of Hong Kong. And then we have also the pleasure of having Mr. Lars Hoffmann, head of EHS Expert Center at Siemens from Germany. And finally, I will invite Mr. Marc de Greff, who is the owner and managing director of the company Prevent, to talk about a new way of working to ensure safety, health, and well-being in the digital economy. So please, Mr. Wintang Young, I would like to pass the floor to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pranini, for your kind introduction. So now let me share my screen first. Okay, just a moment.
Yeah, that's fine. We saw your screen, but not in the presenter mode.
Okay, that's okay. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to attend this conference. And first of all, I have to thank the organizer. So do you see my screen? I think it's not ready. Is it ready? It's not ready.
Now you have started.
No, it's okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Yes.
So now it's okay. Yeah. It's okay now. So it's a great pleasure for me to attend this conference. And I have to thank the organizer, the International ORP Foundation, for organizing such a meaningful event in the APASA Congress, such that we can share the information and ideas on how to promote the concept of the Vision Zero. And today I would like to share with you our Hong Kong experience on how digitization, such as the big data, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things that can enable predictive prevention concepts and tools. And before I start, I would like to introduce our council. Occupational Safety and Health Council is a statutory body established by the government in 1988. And our role is to promote safety and health at work and also sustain the valuable workforce of Hong Kong. And our government is also keen on developing Hong Kong into an innovation and technology hub. And in our Chief Executive's Policy Address of 2021, our government has committed over 130 billion funding for the innovation and technology development. And in the coming years, our government will support various sectors such as finance, education, healthcare, and also the logistics, construction, and the manufacturing industry in the development of the new technology in Hong Kong. And one of our important projects is to develop Hong Kong into a smart city. And last year, our government has published the Hong Kong Smart City Blueprint 2.0. And our government has come up over 130 initiatives, and mainly in 6 areas for the smart city development. And these 6 areas mainly includes the smart mobility, the smart living, the smart environment, the smart people, the smart government, and also the smart economy. And our vision is to embrace innovation and technology so as to build a well-famed smart Hong Kong with a strong economy and a high quality of living for our citizens. And next, I would like to show you some examples for our smart city development. And the first one is the multifunctional smart lamppost. And from here, you can see that there are some sensors and detectors installed on the lamppost. And at the top, you can see that we use the thermal detector to collect the traffic data so as to monitor the road incidents. And we also use the meteorological sensor and the air quality sensor for the better provision of the weather and the environmental information. And finally, we will also use the Bluetooth beacon, QR code, and the RFID tag to support the development of the location-based application and the provision of the 5G networks in Hong Kong. So from here, you can see that the smart lamppost is the key infrastructure for our smart city development. And next, I would like to show you how to leverage advances in CCTV and the Internet of Things. Why we develop this technology? Because we see that crowd management is important, especially when there is a large group of people gathering in a specific area at the same time. And this can happen especially in the peak hour of the mass transit railway. There will be lots of passengers using the service. And you can imagine when there is a fire happen, then the crowd will be in panic and they may push against each other and may result in serious slip, trip, and fall accidents. So that is why we make use of the CCTV surveillance cameras and the advanced video analytical tools, such that we can detect the crowd flow automatically. And also we can identify any abnormal or dangerous situations in the high-risk area. And by leveraging the Internet of Things, this real-time data can be sent to the monitoring stations for the analysis and the follow-up actions. And from here, you can see that this is another example on how to apply the big data and the Internet of Things on the driving safety. And as you know that each year, there are lots of the car crash accidents due to the drowsiness of the drivers. So that is why the bus company in Hong Kong has developed a drowsiness monitoring system to monitor the level of attention of the drivers during driving. And by using the facial recognition system and the image processing technology, if the driver feels fatigued or drowsy during driving, then the system will provide warnings to alert the drivers to pay attention so as to prevent the accidents happen. And besides the drowsiness monitoring system, the bus company in Hong Kong has also developed the advanced driver assist system. And when there is a risk of the forward collision or lane departure, then the system will also provide warnings to alert the driver to pay attention so as to prevent the accidents happen. And also, as we are now still in the pandemic, so how to make use of new technology to combat the COVID-19 is also one of our main focus. And from here, you can see that this is an intelligent sterilization robot. And by using the autonomous navigation technology and the advanced obstacle detection, this robot can plan their route and conduct the disinfection by automatic routing. And this sterilization robot can also achieve multiple disinfection by using the ultraviolet light and also the spraying of the hydrogen peroxide through a 360-degree disinfection spray head. And with such a high efficiency, this sterilization robot can be widely used in office buildings, shopping malls, and also it can be used in hospitals and airports for the disinfection. And next, I would like to talk about the smart, sustainable, immunized buildings. This is an important concept on how we can enhance our building operation system so as to respond to the pandemic. And by using the big data and the Internet of Things technology, the system can conduct a real-time monitoring of various data, such as the ventilation rate, humidity, ambient, and the outdoor temperature. And this system can monitor this data, and it can also help to optimize the buildings for the COVID-19 prevention, such as increasing the ventilation rate, maintaining the optimal humidity, or using the HEPA filter for the filtration of the indoor air so as to prevent the transmission of the airborne infectious diseases. So from here, you can see that with a smart building operation system can help to create a comfortable and a healthy working environment. And in the pandemic, our government has also launched a Live Home Safe mobile apps in November last year. So why our government launched these apps? Because it can help us to locate our visits to different venues, such as shopping malls and the restaurants. So how to use these apps? And from here, you can see that if you visit the same venue that the COVID-19 patients has also visited at the same time, then you will receive a notification from the apps. And the notification will contain information on where and when the exposure might have occurred. And health advice will be sent to the users to remind them to take proper precautionary measures and seek medical treatment if need. And recently, our government has also added a new function to allow the public to store their COVID-19 vaccination records and also the electronic testing records so as to facilitate easy display of these records when necessary. And with this new function, the users can use the apps much more easily. And also it can facilitate our Department of Health to trace the close contact much quicker so as to reduce the risk of the transmission of the COVID-19. And next, I would like to talk about how to apply the artificial intelligence, big data, and the Internet of Things in our construction industry. And from here, you can see that this is a mobile virtual assistant. And you can use the system to report the near miss. And when you report the near miss, you can simply specify the near miss location, the description of the near miss, and you can also attach the photos when necessary. And besides reporting the near miss, the system can also help out construction practitioners to conduct the safety inspection. And from here, you can see that when you conduct the safety inspection, you can use the checklist in the system. You can simply type in the description of the hazards, and also you can attach the photos and provide recommendations to rectify any unsafe condition. And after you have conducted the safety inspection, you can then upload the safety inspection results in the cloud system. And then the system will generate reports to relevant parties for the follow-up actions. And this software robot can also be used for the fatal zone alert. As you know that in a construction sites, usually there are lots of the fatal zones, such as the lifting zones or the excavation zones. And the workers may have the risk of being struck by the heavy machinery. So with the use of this system, if the workers have entered these fatal zones, then the system will generate an appropriate alert so as to enable a real-time monitoring of the worker safety. And next, I would like to talk about the smart wearable. And from here, you can see that this is a smart helmet. And it consists of the Internet of Things sensors and the GPS trackers so as to real-time locate the workers' positions. And with the safety sensors in the helmet, can also help to measure the health condition of the workers, such as the body temperature and the heart rate. And with the measuring of this data is very important because if the workers are working in a hot and humid weather, and if the workers are not feeling well, then the sensors in the helmet can detect the adverse health condition of the workers and then provide warnings to alert the supervisors for the rescue operations. And also, with the use of the smart helmet can also be used for the danger zone alert. Say, for example, if there are some unauthorized persons entering the excavation area, then the system can provide alert to warn the operator such that the operator can stop the excavator and prevent the accidents happened. And now in Hong Kong, we are also exploring the use of the smart robotics on our construction sites. Especially in the construction industry, we are now facing the problem of the manpower shortage. We are also facing the problem of the aging workforce. So how to make use of smart robotics to enhance the work safety and also improve the productivity is also one of our main focus. And from here, you can see that these are some examples of the smart robotics, such as the automatic welding machine, the automatic wall plastering machine, and also the automatic paint spraying machine. And with the use of the artificial intelligence, we allow the robotics to assess the working environment continuously. And with the safety sensors installed in the robots, we can allow the workers to work closely with the robotics in a safe manner. And now we also see that there is an increasing trend on using the drones. Before that, usually we will use the drones for the site surveying. But now we also extend its application on the safety inspection. And by using the big data and the artificial intelligence, the smart drones can be intelligent enough to predict the inspection route and prioritize the inspection work. And also, the drones can also be used for the search and rescue operations in the remote areas. And from the video, you can see that this is a heavy lift drone with 28 propellers. It can carry a payload of 200 kilograms. And with the use of these heavy lift drones, it can provide a quicker search of the injured person, especially in large remote areas, and can save lives much easier. So I have just shown you some examples on the application of the new technology. But before we adopting this new technology, we need to ask several questions. First of all, will the new technology create new occupational safety and health risks? Say, for example, if we use the robotics for lifting or moving heavy objects, will the robotics also have a chance to hit the nearby workers? And also, when the system fails, is the new technology still safe? Say, for example, if we use the smart drones for the safety inspection, if suddenly the motor burns out, or if the system cannot receive the GPS signal, is the technology still safe? And also, has the data privacy protection properly addressed when developing the new technology? And in Hong Kong, we have a personal data privacy ordinance. And when the enterprise develop the new technology, they need to observe the requirement of these regulations. And also, how do we develop our organizational capacity for change? And also, how new technology governs and impact the industry? So these are some of the questions that we need to ask before adopting the new technology. And finally, to conclude, for good ideas and true innovation, we need human interaction, conflict, argument, and debate. But most important is that we need to have a dream such that we can continue to explore and discover. So let's work together to build an innovative culture on digitization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for this very inspiring presentation on how you have or are in the process of developing a smart city in Hong Kong. I think you have two interesting points that I would like to highlight. And the first one is that you connect a strong economy with high quality of living. And I think this is very important to highlight that these are not opposite factors, that we can maintain strong economies at national level, but also at company levels with increasing health and safety and thereby a high quality of living. And the other point I think is very important is that if we look at the Vision Zero Golden Rule number 5, it is important that prevention is always about creating good surroundings and to use the technology in the service of prevention so that we do not only rely on humans to protect themselves, because humans are, we have all, we can get tired, we have failures and so on. So it's always important to look at the systems, at the structures of our workplaces in order to increase the prevention levels. So thank you very much, Vincent, and I will invite the next speaker, Mr. Lars Hoffmann, to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Thanks, panel, for the kind introduction. I hope my camera is working, but I can't see my picture for whatever reasons.
And we cannot see your picture either. But now you have started screen sharing, I can see. So hopefully we can see your slides.
Yeah, you should see it.
Yes.
So thanks, Panel, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The headline of the presentation is how digitalization enables predictive prevention concepts and tools. We just heard a lot of interesting things from our colleague in Hong Kong. Within the next couple of minutes, I'm going to show you a very few examples from Siemens, how we in Siemens already use digitalization, IoT, and artificial intelligence in the context of occupational health and safety and well-being, of course. And we are not there. But, there are some areas where we are still in the transition phase, like more or less everybody. but we think it's time that we get rid of the, let's say, old traditional pencil and paper approach and head much more towards the proactive approach, or rather the predictive mode at the end of the day. So, but before I jump into the details, I just want to give you very few information about our organization. Most of you already know Siemens as a global player, as a big company, more or less from household equipment. I guess this is history, this is gone. You can, of course, still buy some household equipment with the Siemens logo on it, but it's just the logo on it. Our core business is totally different. You will see that in a business in a minute. We are around about 300,000 employees all over the world. If you add also the separate stock listed Siemens Energy company, we are around about 400,000 people worldwide, being present in around about 200 countries in the world. So whatever we do in the context of health, safety, and well-being within our organization has to respect also the needs and requirements of the respective countries, cultural aspects, legislations, etc., etc. So this is not an easy one. So this is how we are structured. I said our core business a long time ago was electrification. This is getting less and less. Our core competencies today are, this is what you can see here, the digital industry, which is automatization, process automatization, digitalization, digital twins, all these kind of things. We have the smart infrastructure, traffic systems, intelligent traffic systems. But smart infrastructure covers also smart building technologies. This is also one of our core competencies. We have the mobility, the high-speed trains. We have the health engineers, diagnostics mainly. And I'm not going into the details with all the other types of business. Siemens Advanta is interesting. There are around about 8,000 software engineers doing nothing else than developing new concepts and solutions for our clients. This is also a very interesting and very important topic in our organization. Since everything is about Vision Zero, of course, this is the evidence that we in Siemens also have implemented the idea of the Vision Zero approach. We did it already 12 years ago. We started 12 years ago, to be precise. We are not done yet. It's an ongoing journey. We just extended our program. We call it Zero Harm Culture at Siemens. We just extended the program until 2030, and we merged it also with Healthy at Siemens, which was a separate project, because we think it has to be seen complementary and no longer individual. So we are still on the journey. It was quite successful, and we are looking also for the new challenges, of course. Now, getting back to what I promised, the real examples from real life. The first example I'm going to show you is linked to the pandemic crisis. Yeah, when the pandemic came around the corner, pretty unexpected to everybody, I guess. We did what most of the companies probably did. We looked, okay, what can we do? How can we protect our people? And most of the companies decided, like we did, to look who can work from home, for instance, from home office, or who can work mobile. And we tried to send these people back home to work from there, to be on the safe side. But on the other hand, we also have a large number of factories all over the world, where we can't just send the people home, because we are serving critical industry. And of course, we had and we still have to have our factories up and running. And the question is how to do it in a professional and safe manner. So we sat together, we developed, like all the others, our respective concepts to protect our people. We implemented technical measures, organizational things, we changed the shift models. And at the end, we handed also our PPE out to the employees. But we had one difficulty, and that was an organizational thing, to really keep the distance between the employees. So we asked ourselves, is there anything we can do in addition? because we had all the traditional stuff implemented, like marking the floors, do not cross line, etc., etc. But it wasn't that effective as is expected. And then by accident, one of our guys in the United States said, "Hey guys, we already have a system in place that can help us, that can support us." And it's a system we call it real-time locating system. It's a system that is usually used at our sites and also at customer sites to get more effectiveness in the process, in logistics, for instance. So vehicles, boxes, material flows, spare parts, they just get connected with the transponder, or the transponder get attached to the pieces. And then you can track each and every single piece that flows around in your factory. You can measure the effectiveness, where they are, how long they are at a certain place, and so on and so on. And our guy said, well, if we can track and monitor pieces and vehicles, why can't we track our employees to be on a safe side at the end of the day? And this is exactly what we did. So they sat together, and within a couple of hours, they set it up in a way that it can be used also on health and safety purposes. And this is how it works. So the easiest way is to attach the transponder to a vest or to a person. You can also put it into a pocket. And you set up the respective algorithm behind and the parameters you want to have. For instance, you say, okay, if there are two transponders attached to a person and they get closer than 1.5 meters, there is an alarm, there's an optical alarm, there can be an acoustical alarm, there can be even a message shown on a display on the transponder. So all the these things are possible, and this is what we did. Very easy, very simple, with a technology that is used for a totally different purpose originally, has been quickly adopted also in the context of health, safety, and well-being. Very effective, very powerful, and very cheap at the end of the day. So, and then on the right hand side, you can visualize it. Of course, the beauty of the system is that you can identify easily hotspots, so where people get closer to each other than expected, than we want. And in case of an infection, you could even, if you want, has to be, of course, agreed with workers' councils, etc., in regard to data privacy reasons. But at the end of the day, the system is also able to identify who has been in contact with whom for how long, so that later on you can even trace back where an infection originally happened. So this was one case we identified just by chance, but it works perfectly. And then we asked ourselves, are there any other use cases, for instance? And yes, there are. This is just one additional. The system can be also used for construction and plant sites. You know, the difficulty on large construction sites, you have people working somewhere, you don't know where they are, because especially at larger sites, you have up to 5,000-6,000 people working, and critical are those ones who are lone workers, for instance, or working in high risky areas, in confined spaces, and down in the catacombs somewhere. Nobody knows where they are sometimes, and there's no supervision, no direct supervision available, or sometimes also possible. And here we just equip the person with this transponder, and we can easily identify where they are, if they are still alive. For instance, the system is intelligent enough, so if there are no movements for a certain period of time, it sends out an automatic alarm to site security or to safety or whoever is doing the supervision at the end of the day. So this is a great functionality. It works also in the underground. It works in buildings. On the other hand, if a person needs help, you can do it also the other way around. So they can, just by pressing one button, they can set an alarm, and the person can be easily detected by the system, so that first aid can be very effective and on time on site. So on the other hand, of course, there are a lot of other functionalities you can use. You can provide people with real-time alerts and information wherever they are on site. You can also restrict access for certain people to certain areas with exactly the same system. So very easy and very powerful to use. Another thing we are working on is, and we heard it from the colleague from Hong Kong, we are going to use more and more drones to master and manage health and safety aspects, especially in construction sites. Drones are already used in our organization since years, I would say. You may remember high voltage power lines, 380 kilovolt. In the past, they have been inspected by helicopters. There was a person leaning out of the helicopter and was observing the power lines, checking them for damages, cracks, and so on. A very expensive, ineffective, and also dangerous process. These times are gone. Today, this is done by the drones. They do it in a couple of minutes without having somebody on board leaning out and doing it manually. So they are equipped with the respective sensors. So people are sitting down on the ground somewhere and they just monitor it on the TV. Very easy, very powerful, and no longer dangerous. Another scenario is the inspection of rotor blades. In the past, rotor blades have been inspected by climbers, so these so-called industrial climbers. Also, these times are gone. Today it is done via a drone. They are equipped with ultraviolet sensors, with radar sensors, etc., and they do it in a few minutes. Very cheap, very powerful, and also here nobody is exposed to high dangerous operations or risk. So we want to do it also on or for the typical routine or non-routine inspections on construction sites. The technique is available. Today, you know how it works. Three people are running around. They want to do an inspection somewhere. On a large construction site, it takes them an hour or even longer to go to the scene. Once they arrive, the operation is done. So they go back for another hour, 2 hours spent for nothing, very ineffective. The future situation will be that the drone will look on site. So we'll be there at the scene within a minute. You can do it manually. They can be also operated with a specific pattern behind. So we will feed the system with, for instance, high-risk operations on site, number of people on site, number of vehicles, weather conditions, whatever is flooding around as information can be fed into the system. And based on respective parameters, the drone decides on its own to take an inspection tour or not. So this is what we are working on. We are in a pilot phase for this, but it's very promising. It looks very promising. The last thing I just want to mention is wearables. We also heard about it. It is a common piece of equipment that is used on a day-to-day basis by many people around the globe already. So this is nothing new. On the other hand, we have, and I mentioned it earlier, we have a business called Smart Building Infrastructure, very intelligent systems. And a new approach would be, or could look like, that the wearables of the people in the building get connected to the smart infrastructure of the building. For instance, you have a workshop with 20 people and they all have these wearables on their arms. And based on the information they submit into the system, the smart building decides on its own whether it is time to open the windows, to say increase the air exchange rates, to change the light, to make it maybe a little bit smoother or a different light color. All these kind of things are already possible today. The only thing that needs to be done is that more and more buildings get equipped with this technology. And of course, because I know that this question always pops up when it comes to artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, yes, it's a very sensitive topic when it comes to data privacy, but there's a lot of opportunities, I would say, and these questions should not prevent us from starting thinking out of the box, right? we have these discussions also in our company, and sometimes I have the feeling that at the very beginning we are looking for some knockout criteria, not to, let's say, deal with the topic. And my approach is more, let's look at the advantages. What can these technologies can do on health, safety, and well-being? And later on, of course, we have also to discuss the data privacy topic and how we can master it at the end. I'm sure we can master it and we have to master it. It's just a question of time. So this was a very few examples that I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Lars, for a very interesting presentation. And I like that both you, Winston, and you, Lars, are talking about the advantages, but that we also need to be aware, of course, of the challenges. In relation to a discussion earlier today on how do we get management to be involved in the prevention culture, I think that you had some excellent points that I would like to highlight. Because what is clear from your presentation, Lars, is that the technology allows the worker to concentrate on doing a good job. Because it's not up to the individual, or at least not only up to the individual, as we were talking about before, but that the worker can concentrate on doing a good job. And also that the company is showing that it takes care of its people. This is good from a brand perspective, of course, but it's also good in order to increase and maintain engagement and motivation for the employees. And then it's more efficient, as you also stated, for example, with the inspections, that you can do more efficient inspections. So I think we should all in our companies, organizations, and also on national levels try to think about how do we highlight these advantages to our management, whether it's the top management level or it's the middle management level, in order to relate it closely to the business priorities, as you did also. So thank you very much, Lars, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
And then I would like to give the floor to Mr. Marc Le Greff from Belgium, Prevent, and on another perspective, you can say, on the digitalization in the service of prevention. The floor is yours, Marc.
Hey, thank you, Pernille. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thank you also to the organizers for having organized this interesting session. And thanks also to Hans-Horst Konkolewski, the man behind, I think, the project. So I'm going to, first of all, I think, share my presentation, if I can find it. Just a second.
That's fine. We have had a little bit of challenges earlier today on the sharing screen, so let's hope it works in a good way.
Yeah. The problem is that I don't see my PowerPoint.
Okay, so you don't see it on your own screen?
No. I saw it just a couple of seconds ago, and now.
Sometimes it helps if you close it and open it again. I don't know if that's possible.
Yes, it's over here. I guess you can see it now?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So, sorry for the interruption. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So, the topic of my presentation is, let's say, on this new way of working. I would like to share some thoughts on how this new way of working can ensure safety, health, and well-being in the digital economy. And I think that we all agree that we are in the middle of, let's say, big evolutions in this digital economy, as we already heard also from the previous speakers. So one buzzword that came up with the pandemic was, of course, telework, because before the pandemic, we saw that there was limited or no telework for office workers. We saw very busy landscape offices with a lot of people thinking and talking all around. We saw intense commuting with traffic jams at rush hours. And then all of a sudden, things changed and we were in the middle of a pandemic. And then telework became the rule for office workers. And then when we visited some companies, we saw that the landscape offices, they were empty. And we also, when we were traveling around, we saw that there was little or limited commuting traffic. There were less or maybe sometimes even no traffic jams at all. So then I asked myself the question, this telework, will it really be something that evolves from zero to hero, question mark? Will it really become a hero? Or do we encounter some problems when working from home, when we are working in small areas, in small houses, not really adapted to working at home and combining this with family life, with children playing around, with dogs and cats barking, and with television which is on and food which has to be prepared. So don't disturb will be an interesting sign, but probably not easy to respect. So is this really a hero for our society and for, let's say, the working people in our society? We saw then, of course, that because everybody started working from home, and in most of our countries, I think it was even compulsory, if it was possible to stay at home, really to stay and work from home. Then we did some surveys and we found out, and we were not the only ones, I think, to find out that there was some negative effects of at least continuous telework, like, for instance, exhaustion because of people being longer time before their screens. We saw back and neck problems, back and neck pain because of non-ergonomic design of the workstations. They're working at the kitchen table. Is not really something that can be done for a longer period, of course. We saw some anxiety because of isolation. People were really working alone sometimes at home. Stress because of a poor mental balance. We saw some sleep disorders. And of course, all this also is linked to this increased fading of the distinction between work and private life. And this distinction we had when closing the door in the morning and going to work, maybe facing some traffic jams, but then arriving at work, see some colleagues, do our work, and then go back at night. Again, possibility to have this clear distinction between work and private life totally disappeared. On the other hand, I think we all agree that a complete return to the old normal will not be necessary because habits have changed. And we also saw some positive effects of telework, such as, for instance, a reduced need of office space. Of course, this less traffic and increased autonomy as well for people working at home. They could, let's say, do some private work during normal office hours and then maybe extend their office time in the evening or in the morning, which leads to more flexibility. And we also saw that in many cases there was also an improved productivity. And maybe there are some other positive effects of telework that can differ from case to case. So will this be a new normal? And then I would like to, let's say, raise some basic questions like, will there be a, let's say, structural shift from sedentary work to digital nomads, and how to find this optimal balance between work and private life, because this is something that indeed we have to study, and we have to discuss, that this balance indeed should be, let's say, optimized, and it's important to keep a good balance between work and private life. So what about this new normal? And these are the questions, of course, I just raised, the structural shift and this balance. How important are they, and how can we organize, let's say, the new normal, that we take into account these two topics? And then I guess from our point of view, and we did some research on this, from our point of view, we see that the physical workplace and the role and the purpose of this physical workplace, we have to rethink it. Because we think that there is a need for a flexible layout of workplaces, and they have to be adapted to the type of work that has to be carried out. So we see that there is a need for co-creation areas, for instance, when people have to work together. We need bubbles if we need some work that needs some concentration, and we also need quiet areas to read or to reflect on certain questions and certain topics. And this flexible layout of workplaces should be combined with working from remote areas, like home working, co-working places, meeting hubs, satellite offices. All this still is based on activity-based working. We organize the work based on the activity that we have to carry out. But in the end, we see that activity-based working is not the ideal way of organizing work, because we see that people, they tend to work from every place. We see that there is indeed the rise of this so-called digital nomad, who can work only with a computer and maybe a sun hat, and he or she can work from every place on the globe in the end. So we see this rise of this digital nomad, and we see that people live and work also in a very different way than, let's say, previous generations, who really go to work in the morning and they return at night, and before and after working time they are not, let's say, involved with anything that is related to work as such. The newer generations, they prefer a more flexible way of organizing work. So we have to keep in mind this new way of living and working when reorganizing and rethinking workspaces. And that's why we believe that we have to shift from, let's say, this activity-based working to a more need-based working, because this activity-based working does not take into account the specific situation and characteristics of each of us, of the individual worker as such. And so the needs-based working will optimize the match between this physical workplace where we can work together and the needs of the individual worker, based on the one hand side, the characteristics of the task, and on the other hand side, the individual worker, such as the characteristics, of the individual worker, such as profile, family conditions, housing, locations, etc. So from activity-based working to a more need-based working. Which brings us to, indeed, the new way of working. And what are then the characteristics of the new way of working? Well, this is, as I mentioned, a way of working that takes into account the needs of the activity as such, and the needs of the individual worker and his profile, his characteristics, its family conditions, and so it tries to combine the characteristics and the demands of each of these let's say aspects of work, tries to combine them in a more optimal way. So the new way of working. It's characterized by a flexible organization of working time, work content, and the working environment. The objective is to carry out the work in an efficient, effective, and pleasant way. Work has to be pleasant because if work is pleasant, if it's done in good conditions, then of course productivity will also increase. It goes hand in hand with the culture focused at obtaining results. And that's important, obtaining results and cooperation. So it's time and location independent working. It needs a new design for offices and an adapted work organization with the emphasis, as I mentioned, on results and not only on sufficient presence, because presenteeism is something that is still measured in today's companies, and we should measure more the results that people are obtaining. So the new way of working is about bricks, bytes, and behavior. Because the bricks, of course, we have to adapt the office. The bytes, we need to ensure a state-of-the-art technological support, and the behavior, and this is important, we need to change the organizational culture and the human factor. And that's exactly also where we as Prevent are really working on these days. We are supporting many, let's say, especially larger companies, most of all in Belgium, but also like yesterday we had a kickoff meeting for a global company that is active all over the globe, with a focus of indeed changing the organizational culture, reinforcing some aspects of the actual culture, just to allow them to start working in a new way. And so the success depends to a large extent indeed on changing the culture and the behavior. And we believe it's like 10% bricks, 10% bytes, and 80% behavior. And some success factors, of course, are support, our autonomy, our project-based teamwork, and is a need-based organization and not an activity-based organization. So keep in mind bricks, bytes, behavior with the focus on the behavior. Of course, if we say the new way of work, then we also would like to emphasize the need for continuous technological innovation, with a need for further digitalization, of course, with an improved access to digital collaboration tools, maybe also some video conferencing. We need to collaborate in a virtual way, and we need to promote knowledge sharing. So the new office will focus on collaboration and co-creation. People, when they sit together, they have to indeed focus on these aspects. And we need to promote communication, of course, and informal meetings. The results will be an increase of productivity, better opportunities for continuous growth in the organization, a reduction of absenteeism, and a better work-life balance. And then, of course, if we keep that in mind, 2 slides, and then I finish, Pernille.
Okay.
If we keep that in mind, then we, of course, we will see that co-working areas, they are really interesting places to implement this new way of working, because we will have this optimal mix between the home and the office. We can organize over there a working environment that is based on modern ergonomic standards. We will have access to state-of-the-art technology, and there is a guarantee for social contacts. And if we keep that in mind, we see that there are many advantages for the employer, like an increased commitment, positive effects on retention, improved flexibility, saving on accommodation costs, and increase of productivity. Also for the workers, and more flexibility to balance work and private life, better health and less absenteeism, increased sense of autonomy, working more efficiently at times of personal choice, and reduction of travel times. So I strongly believe that this new way of work, it will help us to create indeed a better work-life balance in the future, when we are supported by good technology, by a good organizational culture, and with good, let's say, technological and accommodation surroundings, then I think we will indeed be able to reach this balance and to have a balance that is better than we had it in the past. So I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you for encouraging us to rethink the purpose and the role of the physical workplace. And I think when it relates to how to get management involved in this, the retention, the attraction and retention of employees is a very important argument in this relation if we try to rethink our way of working. So maybe we should use this pandemic period to think about how do we want to come back to the new normal? Do we want to come back to stress, to the normal we had before, or back to better? And that is exactly what you have been presenting, I think. Thank you for that. And with that final remark, we are now at the end of this part, the session 2. So I would like to thank all participants, all speakers, and also the online audience to listen to us. And I will give the floor back to Hans Horst. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Pernille, for your excellent introduction. Very interesting, the 7 golden rules for digitalization, and for sharing this exciting session. And thank you, Vincent, Lars, and Mark, for helping us to better understand the risks and in particular the many opportunities that digitalization offers for safety, health, and well-being at work. With this, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, we have reached the end of the first part of our Vision Zero day or days. I hope that you all have enjoyed the afternoon in company with great OSH managers and experts, as much as I have, and I invite you to join us again tomorrow morning, where we look forward to present and discuss innovative solutions related to 2 new incentives and to new metrics for prevention. And in a closing roundtable, we'll summarize and discuss some of the key findings, and we see the excellent moderators that have managed the day for me and for us in such a great way today. So with this, have a good evening. See you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock sharp on this channel. Thank you.
Thank you.